So, good afternoon, guys. I am back at it again with another fantastic episode of The W.O.W Show. If you are new here, I am Vernaire and I am your hostess with the mostest. So, last week I sat down with my first guest, the beautiful Anguillian womanpreneur, Mrs. Tahira Banks Webster, and we had a blast discussing her life from being a tomboy growing up in Anguilla to living her life in color as the co founder of the marketing and tech agency Thoughtful. So if you missed that episode, please do me a favor and go and check it out. You can check it out on 664 Connect Media on YouTube. And of course, if you're following Women of the West Indies on Facebook, you can go there as well. This week, I am heading over to Guyana as I'm joined in the studio by the award-winning visual artist, actor, theatre director, teacher, and wow woman, Mrs. Collette Jones-Chin. Good afternoon, Colette, and how are you doing this
Oh,
afternoon?
good afternoon, Vernaire. I am fine. I'm doing great this afternoon. Thank you for having me on your show. And thanks to the listeners and viewers also who are going to be on.
I
Yes.
can't wait for everybody to hear this fantastic conversation that we're about to have. You're a ball of energy, and I'm absolutely looking forward to it. To everybody who's tuned in, thank you very much for your eyes and ears. Again, this is our third episode, and I hope that you've been enjoying the show so far. But as you know, get ready. You already know the vibes. Grab your favorite drink, settle into a comfy seat, and join Colette and I for another show filled with inspiration, empowerment, and sisterhood. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the W.O.W Show. So, guys, I know that you guys are just loading in. So, thank you so much again for tuning into the W.O.W Show. I'm Vernaire Bass, and I am here with the fabulous visual artist, art extraordinaire, Collette Jones.
Stop. Thank you,
I'm here
though.
to
Thank
big you
you.
up. Colette said that I made her feel like a celebrity with all of the social media graphics and stuff like that. But we are taking things right back to the beginning. So
Yes.
let's jump into it. So, Colette, you
Mhm.
hail from the beautiful country of Guyana. But
Mhm.
you've also had the unique experience of living on multiple Caribbean islands. Can
Yes.
you share with me one thing that you love about Guyana that you've never encountered anywhere else?
First of all, the food.
Ooh.
Undoubtedly, the food and Guyana's culture. I think it is because we have six different races,
Mm-hmm.
and each one provides their own culture, their own foods, their own, well, not clothing so much, but maybe back then in the day when they first came. But for now, the food and our cultures are very different, unique, I must say, to the Caribbean in some parts. And we get to practice all of them. It doesn't matter what race you are or what religious background you're from, you experience all of the six cultures and their religions. So that for me left a mark on my upbringing, left a mark on my life generally. And it makes me who I am, because I can tap into any one of the six at any time or merge all six and do whatever I want to do creatively. So, yep.
That is fantastic. So
Thank you.
just bear with me one moment. Yes, here we go. So yeah, we're gonna take things back to your childhood. You grew
Mhm.
up in Mahaica. I hope I pronounced that
Mahaika.
properly.
Mahaika.
Mahaica,
Yeah.
on the east coast of Demerara in
Mhm.
Guyana. Can you tell
Yes.
us a little bit about your childhood growing up in Mahaica?
Very colorful, extremely colorful. Again, I grew up in a village that had all the races, mainly though African and East Indian, and some Portuguese. In my village per se, a lot of Portuguese people came and settled there from Portugal, Madeira, Madeira, Portugal, and a lot of Caribbean people also settled there, coming from mainly Barbados, Trinidad, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, St. Kitts. Yes, were in my village. And most of the Portuguese women then married into those other cultures from the Caribbean. So I'm one of those. I'm a product from one of those. My grandmother, who was Portuguese, married to my grandfather, who was from St. Vincent. So it was a very rich upbringing, um, very exciting, very natural, down to earth. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor, I would say. I thought we were poor, but when I grew up and I realized how rich it was, not in a material sense, but our lives, our upbringings, the teachings we've gotten, I think that it was extremely rich because many great ones from Guyana also came from Mahaica, like one of our presidents, past presidents came from Mahaica. A lot of writers came from Mahaica. Cricketers, I don't know if you know of Colin Croft, yeah, Colin Croft, and Shivnarayan Chandra Paul, and many others, a lot of writers and poets, Barrington Braffett, who's a writer, me myself. So I grew up with all these icons that my grandmother used to instill that I follow. You have to be like this body and you have to be like that body. So try taking your education. And education was first and foremost for us. So that really played an important part in our lives, in my life. And you had to be balanced also, never knowing how important it was. I guess those older folks really knew how to make things happen without even knowing how to make things happen. In their own little innocent way or little naive way, they tried to make us the best. And it's until we grew up, then we realize how important that was. Those teachings were to us.
I think back then, back in the day, I should say, the culture was very much, it was way more competitive. I
Yes,
remember even when I grew up in Montserrat, it was very important for you to be the top of your class. Whereas
yes,
I think in modern society, it's all about, oh, at least you tried, at least
yeah,
you
yeah,
participated.
yeah,
But
yeah,
participation back then wasn't enough.
yeah.
You had to be the best.
Exactly. I don't know where that came from because, like I tell my kids every day in school, I say to them, if you're going to be that way, like thinking that it's just about participation, then why are you studying? Why do we work? We have to work. And in order to get there, we have to be qualified. When we get on the job, we have to do our best. We can't just participate. We can't just say, oh, I'm going to work just to participate or just to try to do something. You have to be the best at whatever you're doing. So did where did that come from, that mentality come from, that we just have to be there, just show up? That doesn't happen. You have to work hard in order to get whatever you want in life. It's a matter
I
of
think
fact.
we've probably gone to the point of being too politically correct. So,
Hmm,
this whole thing
hmm,
about equality and diversity, obviously you
hmm.
welcome them, but you also need to
Yes,
have that
yes,
element of being
yes,
competitive. And I think that's
yes,
really what life is about. Life is
yes.
about, striving for greatness and striving
Hmm,
to not
hmm.
even to really compete with others, but to compete with the
Compete with
person who
yourself
you
and
were
trying to
yesterday.
be the best you can be. Why are you here? What's your purpose
Mhm.
here on this planet? It's to be the
Absolutely.
best you can be in order to make others be their best at whatever they're doing. Simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tragically, well, unfortunately, your mother passed away when you were just a year old.
1 year old,
She
yes.
was a victim of a hit and run driver.
Yeah.
Despite having your grandmother by your side and your dad, what was it
Hmm.
like growing up during that time without your mother?
Well, not my dad, my grandfather and grandmother. My dad came later. And again, I didn't even want to get into that aspect of growing up, but it is there. Guyana is filled with racism, as you know. And I'm a product of that too, because I'm part Portuguese, Indian, and Black. So my grandfather, who was Indian, half Indian and Black from St. Vincent, was extremely racist. So he never wanted me to mix with the Black kids, and he never owned up to me that I was Black. So when I went home and I asked him, like, I went to school with mainly Indians and Portuguese and a few Blacks. And I would go home after they teased me, they would call you all sorts of names. And I would ask him, Daddy, what race am I? And he'd be like, Gal, you're not got on race. You want Portuguese, you want Santanton. What is a Santanton? He said, you're not white, you're not black, you're not Portuguese, you're not Chinese, nothing, you want Santanton.
Which is probably
So,
more confusing because
what
what is
is
a
a
Santa? What
Santanton?
is a Santa?
So, okay, so growing up with them was really, really, really interesting, really positive. Like those years made me who I am, even though you deviated as you grew. But I remembered all the good times and all the good upbringings that I had with my grandmother mainly. He was just there as the pillar, but she's the one who really worked on me, shaped me. She was my tool, the one that grind and work and polished and made you who you are, who I am now. So it was very interesting in that way. We learned how to share. Like every household was responsible for the other household, even though we were not the same race. You know, everybody shared with each other. Everybody would help each other with whatever we're doing. Everybody would have the same uh, outings. We would go to the same outings. We experienced all the same kite flying experiences together. We shared everything, you know. And for me, that laid a very good foundation for when I grew older, even though I deviated to some at some point, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah,
That's fantastic.
yeah.
And you left Guyana for the first time at 16
16,
because
yes.
of a political uprising. Do you
Mhm.
remember much about that time?
Well, that wasn't when I left. That wasn't the political time yet. That was when we were going through what Barnum was, well, what people say Barnum was putting us through, and they thought it was negative. But what he was trying to do was to make us stand out in the Caribbean as the people who can make anything happen with whatever we have. But we didn't see it that way. People didn't see it. They thought it was a negative that he was trying to take away this and take away that and ban that and put us in all these different negative positions. But really, he had a vision that we didn't see. So at 16, when things were very bad, my father decided to send us away. Well, he sent my sister and brothers first to Barbados. And then at 16, he sent me to try it out because I had just finished school. But I didn't like it. I always had the feeling that I'm going to be somebody great in Guyana. I want to go back home, you know? So I came back and I stood through and I worked and I finished school. I went to art school, went to university and worked. But it's until university, after leaving university, then the political things, the political uprising started. Um, I went away again to Canada. I was sent to Canada as a crossroader from Guyana, representing Guyana as a crossroader in Canada. And when I came back, I started to work at Mesa Secondary School. And I'll never forget that day when I drove off from school and there was a kidnapping happening at some point somewhere. And these police just stormed into the car and had these guns pointing at me. And I was like,
Wow.
no, I didn't do anything. What's going on? You know, it was really, really scary. And so I decided, look, I'm not going to stay here. At the point, I had just met my husband and we were just going out. And I said, listen, Cecil, I'm not staying in this country. I don't feel right. It was a vibe. There was a bad vibe. And I felt as if I stayed, I would have died, you know. So we decided to go to Barbados. And then we ended up in St. Vincent after that. And that was it. And that was in 1998.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So not that long ago.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe like 28
And it
years.
doesn't even feel that long.
All right. That is so
Yeah.
crazy. So when would you say that what sparked your interest in the arts? Was it way before
I
you
think I was born
left
this
Guyana?
way. I was born this way and couldn't help it. From the time I knew myself, I was scribbling on the walls, like really scribbling proper drawings. I would write. I would sit and just write little poems. When I was young, I remember about 7, and my grandmother would show everyone these poems that I would write. And I would not be interested in school proper, but I had to go, you know. And I remember one time bringing home second place and got licks
Wow.
and and hid my report card in a nearby trench. Just dig the mud out of the trench at the side and bury the card because I got second place, and went home and still got licks because I couldn't produce the card. You know, so it was that bad in the house with my grandmother. You had to be bringing home first every term. You know, so what was I about to say? I forgot.
So how you got interested in the arts because you were
Oh, the
drawing on
arts.
the walls and
So everything for me was based on being creative and being different from everybody else without even trying or without even knowing. Like a friend called me yesterday from Canada after, I think it's Canada he's living, after seeing the ad, and he said, Colette, you were one of the people in theater who were just different. You did everything differently. You just didn't care. You just went up, did what you had to do. You made everybody laugh. You did your stupid things, and then it was good, like you were different. And I didn't even try to be different. I just wanted to do things how I saw them. And not many people did that, or not many people could have done that without fear. You know, I ignored all the criticisms. I ignored, oh, my father said to me, "You're going to become a druggie if you do art." Like, I remember when I told him I'm going to go to art school, he said, "No, no, no, you're going to use drugs, and you're going to be on the streets. You wouldn't make any money. Do law. You can become a lawyer," which I could have, because I like that too. But I am a humanitarian. I can't sit and represent someone who is notably a criminal, or I know that they have committed that crime, and I'm going to sit and represent you. No way. And at that time, there was nothing like creative law or cultural law or all these different things, aspects of law. It was just criminal law we were thinking about. So I said, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be an artist. So I went to art school on my own, went to university on my own, went to theater on my own, did everything that I had to do creatively, and it never failed me. So I think I was born with that. And then looking back, most of my relatives, there is someone in either side, both sides of my family, that was into the arts in different ways. So I think it's genetic.
So that's interesting that you mentioned law, because a little birdie told me that at one point you considered becoming the Minister of Culture in Guyana.
Yes,
So
yes,
what changed your
yes.
mind
Again, the
about politics?
politics of Guyana changed my mind. Again, because I started off doing a course in political science right after I finished, and I didn't even finish a year because there was the uprising at that point, and the lecturers were all involved, and then everybody stopped coming, and I was like, no, 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 this is not for me. This is a sign, it's not for me. So the closest I got to that was to become the director of drama for Guyana for a short while, and I
Okay.
enjoyed it to a point. I
But
enjoyed it to a point.
but
It's not for me.
it's so interesting because obviously I know that you work with a lot of young people now,
Mhm.
and being your true authentic self is something that I think that all of us struggle with, especially in the Caribbean, where
Yes,
our parents don't think that you can have an actual
yes.
career being a creative, and especially
Mhm.
where the misconception is that you're going to
Mhm.
be on drugs. So
Mhm.
what gave you the gumption at such a young age to really, even though you didn't have the support of your parents, to still pursue your artistic dreams?
I just don't know. I just don't know. Let me tell you a little story. So my father went into the interior of Guyana to work in a um, gold mine. That's the time when I went into art school on my own. To get into art school, well, of course, I had to present my qualifications, blah, 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 whatever. But I wanted to go on a scholarship because I can't afford to do it on my own. So they said your father, if he has a house, has to sign over the house to the government as surety. And that will put you through 4 years and blah blah blah, or you have to pay for it yourself, blah blah blah. So I'm like, okay, then where would I get my father's transport from? How do I get it? Because he will never sign for that. And I have to go to art school. There is nothing else I want to do. I didn't even want to go to university because at the time, to go to university, you had to do national service in Guyana.
Oh
That
wow.
was like an arm of the army where anyone who was studying had to go and learn how to fight to represent their country. Bottom line. Okay? So if you're studying at that level. So in my head, I ain't going and be no national service pioneer. No way, not me. All the
Mm-mm.
things I've heard about soldiering and all the things I've heard about what happens in the army, no, I'm not going. Anyhow, I stole my father's transport. I'm
Just
very
drop that.
creative. I'm very creative. So I went into his room, searched for like a week, found the transport, stole the transport, wrote a letter on wrote a letter as if it's him, signed, forged his signature. I mean, I could be jailed right now. Forged his
Wow.
signature. Wow, indeed. And I took it into the permanent secretary of culture at the time, and they accepted it. and I got the scholarship and I went into art school and my father came back. And at some point, I think he wanted his transport to go conduct some business and he couldn't find it. And he was searching everywhere. And I was like trembling. And then I finally admitted that I took the transport and carried it into the PS and they have it. So he said, what? But remember, he is an abuser. I want to get into all that today. But he used to beat us for any little thing and everything.
Sorry to hear that.
So he took me straight to the ministry and started slapping me up in front of the PS and said he wants back his transport with all the big expletives and whatever. And I'm a thief and I'm a liar and blah, 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 blah. And the PS, she's dead now. She said, you're going to regret this, Mr. Jones. She said, this girl is desperate and she knew why she didn't ask you for it. She's not right in doing what she did, but you shouldn't react this way. And she talked him out of it and blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, fine, I'm going to leave it. But when she graduates, she has to pay me back. No, no, no. He said, every piece of material she wants to buy, I'm going to give her the money to buy it, but she has to pay me back 20% of every loan I
Oh,
give to
wow.
her. Yes. So I did. I did. And I finished school and everything. And I did. And I just didn't care. I did what I had to do.
All I can say is, wow.
Yes.
And on that note, guys, we're
At
going to take a
age
quick break.
17, I think I was. It was
We're going to take a
ridiculous.
quick break, guys, and catch you back in a few seconds. Wow. So, guys, if you're just joining us now, you are tuned into the Wow Show with yours truly, Vernaire Bass. And this afternoon, I am sitting down with the fabulous Wow woman, which is Collette Jones-Chin. And so far, she's been telling us about her early years growing up in Ghana. And just now, just told us a fantastic story of courage, rebellion, tenacity. Essentially, she stole her dad's car to get into art school. But you'd have to go back in the conversation to hear more about that. So earlier you alluded to the fact that after the uprising, you had moved to Barbados and then
Mhm.
eventually you
To
moved
St.
to
Vincent.
St. Vincent. So you moved to St. Vincent for a teaching opportunity
Yes.
and ended up staying there for 15
15
years.
years. Yes.
How would you say that that relocation shaped you as a person and how did it influence your artistic journey?
Okay, first of all, the woman who hired me and my husband, Sister Patricia Douglas, she died a
Oh,
few years,
sorry to
a
hear.
long time ago. She was the sister of Rosie Douglas from Dominica. That was a fantastic human being. Oh my God, she was phenomenal. She was a nun.
Okay.
She introduced co-education to the Catholic system in St. Vincent. So her school had boys and girls, but not just boys and girls. She took kids off the streets, which was my thing, which is my thing, which is my forte. And I didn't know the woman. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Oh, I didn't know her. I did not know her or know of her. We just applied to several countries because that's what we were doing as Guyanese back in the day, like applying everywhere for jobs as
Mm-hmm.
teachers. So I applied to Cayman Islands, Bahamas, everywhere, everywhere. And St. Vincent came to me from a teacher who did not want the job because they were paying too little. So she gave me the address and the phone number. Back then we had no cell phones or internet. So she gave me the phone number and the address. And she said she's a Catholic. I'm Catholic born. So she said, try applying, Colette. The salary is extremely low, but you know you will make anything work. That's what she said. So I said, how much you're paying? She said, 1,000 EC dollars. I said, a month? She said, yes, that's why I'm not taking it. So I'm like, okay, let me see. So I took it and added it to the list that we sent out. While in Barbados, we were sitting at a friend's house for lunch, and over her lunch table, her dinner table, had this beautiful tapestry created in St. Vincent, marked St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And my husband looked up and said, you know, we can end up right there. So I said, why you said that? He said, I just don't know. I feel it. Like I just felt something by looking at that. So I knew my grandfather was from there, but never wanted to go there because of all the stories you hear of poverty and whatever, whatever, whatever. So I said, I'm not going to St. Vincent. And nowhere else responded to us at that point. And it was coming now down to September. We need a job. The monies we left Guyana with was going down. And I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't sell out everything. I didn't sell the house or anything yet. So I was like, where are we going to get money from? We need a job. So
Mhm.
we started calling around different places. They're like, no, they don't have any vacancies, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, out of the blues, this woman calls. She's the secretary of the school. And she said, Sister Pat would like to see you. So I was like, from where? She said, oh, St. Vincent, from the convent. You sent us a letter. I said, yes. She said, okay, but Sister Pat is in France right now and she's coming back in 2 days. So when she comes, she'll call you. Sister Pat called me immediately as soon as she arrived and got that letter. On the phone, she said to me, I just like your spirit. She saw my photograph on the, I usually put my photograph on my resume. She said, I like your spirit and I like your hair. I had very long hair at the time. I said, thank you. She said, can you come now? I was like, no. I said, maybe tomorrow. She said, I'll pay your ticket. I'll pay for your ticket. I'll go buy the ticket now. You can come tomorrow. I was like, this lady's
Wow.
crazy. Exactly. So I left myself. I didn't go with my husband. I went alone. And as I got to the airport in St. Vincent, it was daunting because it was raining and the airport was flooded and there were all these sandbags. And back then, St. Vincent didn't look the way it looked now. It was like dark and green and mossy. And I was like, no, I'm not coming here to myself, right? But as soon as she saw me at the airport and she took my bags, she stood back and did something like this. And I said, what? She said, you have a halo over your head. So I said, what is that? She said, you're extremely spiritual and you have a gift. It's huge. It's huge. She said, come on, come on, come on. And she took my bags and she went into the car with me. I'm like, this lady is strange. Anyway, we're driving. And I'm like, for a
Thinking
nun.
I left my husband in Barbados to come with this
Yes.
strange woman.
Yes. He became her son. So I had never in my life seen a nun look like her. She was sexy, beautiful, just had on the habit. Just when she took off the habit, she was like a normal human, beautiful woman. So we jumped in the car, we started driving, and the place was really gloomy. As we got to Mesopotamia Valley, I don't know what it was. My entire skin started to grow, and I started to cry. I looked out and saw these mountains and these valleys, and she's like, what's happening? I said, Sister Pat, stop. And she stopped the car and she said, come out, come out. And I came out and I looked over and I'm like, I am going to live here. That's why I said to myself, I am going to live here. So she said, you okay? I said, yeah, but sister, this is real. This I've never seen anything like this in my life. Because I've never seen mountains before, even though I live in Guyana.
Really?
No. Yeah, and where we're from in Georgetown, it's flat. The mountains are in the interior. And many of us
Right.
don't even go to the interior. The highest I've seen are hills in Kimby where we did the course, the national service course, but I've never really seen mountains that go into the clouds and the fog and the freshness and that hit me hard. So I jumped back into the car when we went to the school. When we got to the school was so pristine and there was this huge grotto and the flowers and the oh my God, I was like, no, this is life. I'm gonna stay here to myself. I didn't tell her yet. So she took me and now we had the
You
interview
forgot
this
you
week.
forgot about the 1,000
Forgot about that. Forgot about the $1,000. I'm staying because I know I can make money. I'm an entrepreneur. I can make money otherwise. So I said, no problem to myself. Everything is in my head now. So she went through the interview with me and she said, well, we can only pay you $1,000, right? So I said, yes. She said, but I can make the bishop think about adding something on extra, maybe a little 300 extra, because you have a lot here to offer. And we can do so much. Oh my God, I've never had a drama teacher in my life, but I applied to teach English. So she said, oh, I never had a drama teacher in my life, and you could assist with the art. And she's going through my resume. And she's like, oh my God, there's so many things you could do for my school. And she's like freaking out now. And I'm like, okay, pay me in my head, right? But your question, one thing it learned me, money is not it. Money is not it. I've learned many more things, but that was the first thing that stayed with me after, that I connected with after, right? Okay. So I'm there now. And I said to her that my husband is in physical education and he's also a teacher. She said, I want him. I want him. Oh my God, Bishop would love to have him. Call him, call him. And we call him on the phone right away. And she said to him, can you come tomorrow?
Wow.
So she said, listen, I'm going to pay him $500 part-time teacher. I'm going to pay you $1,300 as a graduate teacher full-time. I'm going to pay for your rent every month. I'm going to find a house for you near school so you don't have to buy a car or anything yet. You can walk to school. And I'm going to stock your house with food for a month. How is that? So I
Wow.
said, no problem, sister. We're going to do it. And I learned how to give more of myself without looking for anything in return. Oh God, it's gratifying. Oh God, when you can give, it's gratifying. I never knew that before I left Guyana. In Guyana, it's all about getting, taking, and not giving or not trying to build someone else. What I learned in St. Vincent was deep. So her school too, she gave me the worst class, so-called worst class, where they were all girls who had babies who were coming
Okay.
back to school. And they were criminal boys, boys who would have committed offenses and were sent out of prison, juvenile. And she took them in. So that's what I had to start with. It was challenging, and I never knew I was born for that. It was extremely challenging at first. And then I realized, listen now, Colette, you can do this. You come from this. You came from this. You know what it is to live like these kids. The only thing is that you didn't get pregnant at a young age. Yeah, but these kids had all other dysfunctions. And I started bringing them home on the weekends and after school. And we would work overtime, work. Then I started putting on shows with that same group. Man, Sister Pat sent me to Curacao. She sent me to Grenada. She sent me everywhere with those kids. And we worked and did shows and did exchange programs. Oh, it was awesome. And then she said to me one day, you know what? The government will take you from me. I said, why? She said, that's what they do. When they recognize that there's someone on the island who is in the private system that can help them, they offer you big money and they take you. She said, and I'm going to tell you, go because you need the money. She said, go with them whenever they come to you, but you can always come back and work with me and my kids. So I spent 2 years with her. Then they did ask me, they wrote me a letter and asked if I can work with the government, and they're sending me in the country to North Union. So I went to Camden Park first. That's on the other side of the island. So I went there first. Then they took me and they sent me to North Union. When I got to North Union, it was a different experience now. This was deep country where nobody spoke real English, where kids saw school as a prison, where the
Okay.
parents were just as illiterate as the kids. Man, and it shaped me. Oh, it shaped me. I became a bigger, stronger, more dedicated, more loving person, more caring person. More man, that prepared me for life. It
Fantastic.
prepared me for life. And then a lot of positives came out after, where the government saw your potential. I became the president of the St. Vincent Arts Association. I wrote curriculum and drama for them. I did a lot of things differently after that. So one thing led to another, and it was not just financial or material. It was other things that made me be realize or recognize who I am and what I had inside to give. It was awesome, an awesome experience.
And that nun is obviously someone who's fundamental to your story. And what was
Yes.
so nice about that story is the fact that she was so selfless,
Yes.
acknowledging that even though you started where you were, that you had so much more inside of you, which is a nice transition to my next question, because
Hmm.
you represented St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 2012 at the
Hmm.
International Olympic Sports Arts
Hmm.
Competition.
Yes.
Um, what effect did that have on your career, and what was that experience like for you?
I think it made my resume look good too. And of course, it speaks like whenever people see that, they're like, oh, she has experience. She did this, she did that. But I didn't even see it as that. I just saw it as participating in something bigger. And I must thank Keith Joseph. I don't know if you know the name. He's now, I think, the president or something in the Carifta Games. He's
Okay.
my husband's friend, one of my husband's best friends right now. And he saw me do work with kids, and he came and asked me if I've ever heard of sport art. So I said no. He said, well, there is something called sport art. Look it up, by which time we've had internet. I looked it up. I saw what it was. I'm like, okay, then. And he said, here what's going to happen. I'm going to organize a workshop for you where you'll do sport art for the entire country. And we ran it for 2 weeks. And it was interesting. So I taught the kids to make sport equipment, sport items, sport items like bicycles and hockey sticks and whatever, anything
Okay.
relating to sport. We made them out of wire or paper mache, or we painted them, or we sculpted them, or whatever. And then we had a grand exhibition. And wire art was not ever even heard in St. Vincent before. So I did a lot of things out of wire bending, because I make costumes too. So I taught them how to bend wire and make shapes out of this wire. And then we started making all these different icons and equipment and stuff that are related to sport. From that, Keith said, there's the competition, sport art competition coming up in England. Would you like to participate? I said yes. So they put out this ad for persons to apply and sending their pieces, and then they're going to choose the best. And mine got chosen.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I sent that up, and that was, I didn't even see it as anything big. And that's the problem or the thing with me. I don't know if it's a problem. It's at the time when I'm doing stuff and gaining all this knowledge and getting recognition or whatever, it just flies over my head. And it's like a year or two later, then you'd sit down and say, oh, shucks, I did that, boy.
But maybe that's the good thing about it, because you're doing
Yeah.
it from a place of passion and
Yes.
purpose, as
Yes.
opposed to, like you said at the beginning of the conversation, chasing down money, because
Yes.
sometimes when
Yes.
you're motivated by money, it takes away everything else. And you're
Everything.
driven by, and obviously that
Everything.
can lead you astray to selling your
Mm-hmm.
soul and doing way more than
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a good thing. But
Mm-hmm.
guys, we're gonna take a quick break and
Mm-hmm.
we'll be back in a few seconds. Thank you very much for keeping it locked with us so far. So if you're still rocking with us, thank you so much. And if you're just joining us now, welcome to the W.O.W Show. I am your host, Vernaire Bass. And this afternoon, I am sitting down with the fabulous Collette Jones-Chin. And I have to say, this conversation has been so funny and entertaining for me, and also inspirational as well. So I hope that you're enjoying it also. So Collette, not
Mm-hmm.
only have you, worked at the Olympics, but you're also someone who has showcased your work in exhibitions across Guyana,
Mm-hmm.
Barbados, St. Lucia, Curacao,
Mm-hmm.
Trinidad,
Mm-hmm.
Suriname, Grenada, Anguilla,
Antigua,
Canada, the USA, and the
St.
UK.
Martin.
This may be a difficult question for you, but which exhibition would you say stood out the most for you, and what did it teach you about yourself?
The one I did, the last one I did in Guyana. It was called, that's how I started, right? That's how I got the idea to write my book, Spoken Images of the Soul.
Okay.
So, of course, Guyana and its issues. So I wanted to satirize everything that was going on, but did not want to put it out there in plain words or plain objects or plain motifs that people can just look at it and say, oh, I know what she's talking about. I wanted to give them something to think about, something to laugh about and play with, and also buy, okay,
Okay.
because they're good pieces. So I did 13 pieces based on things that Guyanese people have to go through in Guyana. But I used the horse. I'm a Sagittarian. So I said, let me use my zodiac sign, the horse, as the object to represent humans, to represent the Guyanese people.
Okay.
So the horse, I don't know if you saw the book, Spoken Images of the Soul. It's on
Mm.
Amazon, so you can get
I'll
one.
check it out. We'll
Yeah.
definitely post the link in the caption on social media, guys, and definitely on YouTube. So if you want to find out more about her book, I'll definitely put the information up for you.
Yeah. So over the years, I've been writing a lot of poetry. So I picked out some that can go with the paintings, not necessarily depicting the paintings, but they can match the paintings and, flow with them. So I decided to do those pieces, and they were huge pieces. I did about 7 or 8 big ones, like 4 by 2 or 4 by 3, and the others were about 18 to 25 in 18 by 25. Anyway, so I also used all of our iconic buildings, our historic buildings, as little icons in the pieces. So
Okay.
I would have a horse paddling through water out of the public buildings that is turned upside down
Okay.
to show that we need to wash that out, that we're flooded by all the negativity. Yeah, that was one piece. Then I had another one by the Stabrook Market called Tied to the Edge of Time. So I had the horse with the noose around its neck, tied it to the top of the steeple of the Stabrook Market's clock.
Okay.
I don't know if you know the Stabrook Market, what it looks like. It's very iconic. It's Dutch built. It was Dutch built. And there's this huge clock on it that tells the time all the time.
Hmm.
So I tied the noose to the top of the clock and had the horse tied to it, yes. But instead of having him hang as if he's being hung, I just had him sit comfortably on the edge of a cliff. And he's just sitting there
As you
waiting.
do.
So he's in a dilemma. It's either he falls off or he's hung.
Oh wow.
Sorry, I just saw it as great humor and fun, honestly. Anyway, that one. Then I had another piece called The Spirits of Kai, where I had the horse's head at the top of Kaichor Falls, and its mane became the water.
Okay.
And then there were all these images and faces that are hidden inside of the falls that are the faces of Kai. And those faces are us, the people, the spirits that come from us that are
Yes.
in the Kaitro Falls. So those are well, that's just three to mention. It's a lot. I can't go through all now. But that's what I did, and that was my most gratifying bunch of artwork that I've ever done, like collection of artwork that I've ever done. And not only were they sold, people enjoyed them, people talked about them, they became conversation piece right through the entire exhibition. People talked about them after, I only have 3 pieces left from that collection. And I'm not selling them. Those pieces represent me. And yeah, that was my best exhibition.
That's fantastic. And
Hmm.
guys, in true nomad style,
Exactly.
Colette migrated to Anguilla in 2006. And just because we're a little bit short for time, I wanted to read you out a quote by yourself. It says, "My purpose here on this earth is to use my God given talents to touch the lives of others, especially the young. And by knowing the power of the arts and the positive changes it can have on people's lives, I am on a mission to fulfill my purpose." How did launching the nonprofit organization Stage Anguilla help you to realize that vision of using the arts to transform the lives of young?
Oh, God, girl, that was something else. Parents still commend me on the work I done with their kids. I still want to revitalize the company. It is still there, but lying dormant because I was ill for 2.5 years. But it really changed me, changed my life in a way that I don't even know how to explain. Like the kids became me. I saw myself in every one of them and saw areas that I could have developed, which I did and worked with. Each one of them, of course, had their weaknesses and their strengths. And I tried to find their strengths and turn that into something that would shape their weakness. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And in turn, by doing that, it made me stronger and made me believe more in myself. especially when I sent a group of them up to CSEC. The youngest child was 11 years old. I sent to CSEC. Never happened before. He
Wow.
wrote art, visual arts at CSEC level at 11 years old, and he got a grade two. Everyone except two of them, I sent up how many? 11, I think. And nine of them got grade ones. Two got triple
Congratulations.
A, yeah, triple A profiles. Two of them got the triple A profiles. And that showed me that I can do this, you know. At this age, I'm realizing how much I can do. This is ridiculous. I mean, I've been doing a lot right through, but it never resonated. It never stuck in my head that I can do this or I have done this, you know. So having those kids in my group doing the visual arts and the performing arts, but with the performing arts, we have done a lot of shows. And that also, oh my God, that also gave me life. It's like we would turn up to rehearsals for a 2 hour rehearsal and end up 6 hours. And the parents would wait, you know, and each child brought something different. Most of them came in not being able to perform, have never performed. I had from ages 4 right up to 21, 22, you know, and the younger ones mainly have never been on stage before. And it was such joy. It gave me such joy just to mold these kids and see them perform. Oh my God, you don't know what that does. Oh,
It's so incredible how humble you are as well, especially after, being at the Olympics, exhibiting your work all over the world, and then, still being so humble to want to work with the kids. But I want to touch on something that is a little bit more emotional now. You've
mhm,
helped so many people in your life, but now you're facing a significant challenge in your own life.
mhm,
Can you share with us the moment when you received the diagnosis of multiple myeloma cancer?
mhm.
And also how that cancer affects the body.
Okay, you want me to tell you the exact truth?
Mhm.
I didn't do anything. I didn't feel anything. I did not. I heard people pass out. I heard people, when they get the news, they cry. I heard all these stories. And for me, it was like, okay, what's the next move? So I asked the doctor quickly. I said, tell me the truth. How long do you think I have? Because I need to know that in order to know how much more work I can do. You know what I'm saying?
Still
He
so selfless.
I don't need to hear that I'm gonna die and I'm gonna sit and wait on it. No, 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 no. So he said, well, you're young. I'm like, young? I'm almost 60. So he's like, yeah, you're young. People over 70 we have to worry about. And it's a strange, rare cancer, and it's one that we can work with. It's an easy one that we can work with. It will kill you at some point if you don't die from something else, but you can live another 20 years if you do what you have to do. So I asked him, what do I have to do? And mind you, it was the last stage. When we found out I
Mhm.
was in the last stage.
Wow.
So he said, well, the first thing we can do for you is have you do the blood transfusion, the stem cell transplant. That's it. And with that, it can add some time to your life. And then you have to know how to eat properly, care for yourself, protect your bones, blah, blah, blah. Because what it does, the cancer eats your bone marrow and weakens your cells, weakens your bones. So right now I have pins in both of my arms because it did break the bones, and it works on the larger bones first. Okay. So multiple myeloma is blood cancer.
Okay.
And I had never heard of that in my life. Cancer of the blood. So the blood cells are, they're good ones and bad ones. And the good ones are being eaten away by the cancer. What they do now is try to kill the bad ones by giving me chemo and by doing the blood transfusion, which I had. So with the transfusion, what they did was took my own blood, they drained my body of my own blood and burned all the bad cells right away. That's happening in the machine that they had attached to me while I'm awake. And
Okay.
then they took the good cells out and froze them. And then another week after that, they put the good cells back into you. And trust me, it gave me a new lease on life. It's like, and the doctor said it. She said, "What will happen in a year is that you will see that you're looking younger." And I do look younger than I did when I was 50 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, your skin becomes younger. My face, my hair grew back like it was when I was a little girl, and it's different. It's good. And I do not take it on. Of course, there are times when I'm down. Of course, the chemo plays with your emotions, your hormones, and all of that. So there are times when I cry for no reason. There are times, of course, when I see death in front of me, like when the arms broke. I thought that was the end, but I accepted it. I told my husband, if this is it, then this is it. I'm not afraid to die. What I'm afraid for is leaving them behind. And how will they cope when I'm gone?
Hmm.
You know, like my kids at school yesterday, two of them said to me, "Miss, don't die now." I'm like,
Wow.
because I talk to them about it, like we talk every day. And they would ask me, "Miss, you okay? Sit down, like I can't fetch anything in school, from the time I drive up, they're there, they take my bags, they take everything, they carry it up for me, and they protect me. And we talk about it. And these things people don't do. Like people are afraid to talk about certain things, and I'm not.
Hmm.
I accept them for what they are and work with it. And that's what I did when I got the diagnosis.
And
I
speaking
did
of,
cry.
sorry, speaking of talking,
Mm-hmm.
what words of encouragement would you offer to someone who, like you, is grappling with this overwhelming challenge of fighting cancer, but maybe struggling to see some hope on the horizon? What words of advice would you give to someone, or what are some of the tools that you use yourself to keep going forward every day with so much enthusiasm and love for life?
You have to first find a reason for wanting to live. My reason for wanting to live is that I know that I have a lot more to give and a lot more lives to change. I change lives every day. That's my purpose here on earth, using my God given talents to change lives. So I like right now I have a woman who I befriended in Curacao, one of my students' mothers. She is going through a lot. And I talk to her every day and I tell her to find something that you think it's yours. It's yours. You own it. You want to be this. You want to do this. It doesn't have to be big, but you must have a reason for waking up every day and wanting to go on. Because there are days when I don't feel it, like when chemo takes me. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's not nice. Chemo is not a good thing. I'm on the pills now, but before I was on the intravenous one, that is bad. It's horrible. You come home, you get cold sweats, you vomit, you hallucinate, you sweat, everything happens to you, and you start seeing death in front of you. You start thinking all the negative things, and in the middle of this, I'm like, get up, Colette, get up. I pray a lot. I pray for no reason. I pray anywhere, anyhow, anytime, in words that are not even used in prayers. I pray. I just pray and thank God for giving me the life that I have right now, and to make me use it for the betterment of humanity. And that pushes me forward. When I look at my husband, who's my caregiver, he encourages me too. I'm like, man, this man ain't even sweating, even though I know he takes it on. But I have to live for him too. And then I have more reason now. I have my granddaughter, and my daughter, I have one child, and she just got a baby. I'm like, okay, this is more reason for me to go on. I want to see her grow. I want to see her become. So I'm not giving up that easily. No way. I'm living till the last day. I'm going to work also until the last day. So, my advice to people who are suffering from cancer, find something that you believe in and something that will make you you, and something that you can use to give back, and stop thinking about it in a negative way. People have all sorts of diseases and we all have to die. We all will die at some point. But don't take this as the thing that will take you right now. You have more to do, you know? So, and
That
pray.
is fantastic
And
advice. And I
pray.
think
Pray.
pray for sure. And I think one of the main causes of things like cancer is also stress. So
Stress brings it on a lot. Yeah.
if you continue, because I've always said, someone may be living with cancer for 10 years and not
Yeah.
be aware of it.
Yeah.
And then the moment that they find out that they have it, they pass away like
Yep.
within a week,
Yep.
sometimes months, a few
Yep.
years.
Yep.
And it's really because they take it on and they allow the cancer to
Yes.
consume them. And obviously,
Yeah.
I don't know what you've been through, and I know that chemo
Yeah.
must be extremely hard. But
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely think that it's mind, body, and spirit. So
Of
you have to
course.
be so conscious of
Of
your
course.
mindset. And I think
Yes.
you have, throughout this conversation, what has been very apparent is that you know what your purpose in life has
Mm-hmm.
been, and you
Mm-hmm.
live that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
speaking about purpose, and obviously you've done so many fantastic things. One of the things I always ask each guest who comes on the show is,
Mm.
what would you say has been your wow moment in life, that defining moment when you knew that what you're doing was what you were born to do?
When I see kids who cannot read, kids who come from very dysfunctional backgrounds, kids who are poor come to me in my class and reach the stage where they can graduate not only with honors, but with a higher level of spirituality and consciousness. That fills my heart. That makes me know that I have done something, you know. It's all about children for me, nothing else. So when I see kids move from, when I see I can take kids to move from one level to another in education using the arts as my vehicle, because it doesn't have to be, they don't have to do the arts. And I say to them every day, you don't have to be an actor or an artist or a dancer or a musician to make it in life. That's not what I'm teaching. I'm teaching you how to be creative, to use what I am giving you to become somebody else. Understand? Use the arts as the vehicle to jump to another level. Use creativity to jump to another level, because creativity and arts are different. To be creative is something totally different from being an artist or artist. Okay? So what I do, I wouldn't say the arts, I'll take that word out, is use creativity to teach my kids how to become whatever.
And I think that's the valuable thing. It's all about having transferable skills.
Yep.
You can learn things, and that's
Yep.
the thing about life as well. Life is
Yep.
just one big lesson, and it's
Yep. Yes,
how
it
you
is.
use that lesson to take
Yes.
you on to the next level. But
Yep.
before we go,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, the Wow Show is about women of the West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
If you can recommend a guest or two,
Mm-hmm.
who would you recommend to be a future guest on Wow,
Mm-hmm.
and why?
I have two women in mind. One, Carol Fraser. She's from Guyana. She's an outstanding artist. She's another creator. She is someone like me, in a way. We've gone through the same hardships or similar hardships and rose above it. And she's extremely verbose and creative and active in the industry. So she's one that I would recommend. And
Thank
then
you.
there is, hmm?
I
And
said
then there
thank
is,
you.
yes. And then there is Sharon Cadogan. She's in the performing arts, the theater arts. She has her own company and she works with young people too, and young and older people. And she produces shows, and she also uses what she has to develop and create and develop young people and people in the society generally. So I would recommend those two for now. I have many more, but for now, those two.
Thank you so much, Colette. Unfortunately, we must bring this interview to an end, but I just want to take this
Oh,
opportunity to say thank you to you for
thank you
sitting
too.
down with me this afternoon and sharing your fantastic story. I know that there is so much more that we could have
Yes,
covered, but
yes,
your
yes.
story is so rich and so full, and I wish you a long life, because the work
Thank
that
you.
you're doing
Thank you. I
is so
will. I will.
valuable, and I believe that you're going to live for a very long
Yes,
time,
I
because
think so
cancer
too.
ain't never seen no one like you.
I know. I know. It's like I'm planning to do a show called, the song, I'm Too Sexy for My Shoes, Too Sexy for. So I'm going to do this one called I'm Too Sexy for My Loma.
Oh, I love it. So, guys, we are short for time. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who has been in the comments and everybody who has tuned in to the Wow Show this week with my fantastic guest, Collette Jones-Chin. Up next week, I have an amazing guest lined up for you, Miss Rose Willock, the incredible radio personality from our beautiful island, Montserrat. She's all about blending entertainment, education, and empowerment. Plus, she has some serious accolades under her belt, like an MBE and an OBE for her top
Mm.
notch emergency broadcasting skills. Miss Willock's passion for our beautiful island, Montserrat, is infectious, and her story is bound to make you say, wow. So set your alarms, guys, and join us next Sunday and every Sunday after that at 4:30 p.m. on 664 Connect Media and Radio Angular 95.5 FM. The show is also rebroadcasted on Wednesdays at 4:30 p.m. on ZJB Radio 88.3 FM. Please remember to like, comment, and share and subscribe to The Wow Show because the algorithm would love me as much as you do. So, guys, have a wonderful Wow week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much again, Colette, and take
Thank
care,
you, Vernaire.
everyone.
Thank you too. Yes. Bye bye.